Hello and welcome to Cultural Apologists React for today, August 27, 2024. This is an AI-generated podcast and can make mistakes. Use it for generating possible ideas, but don't rely on it as an authoritative guide to the day's news or to the details of cultural apologetics. In the news today, a flood surge in Sudan has burst through the Arbat Dam, destroying at least 20 villages and killing dozens of people, with estimates suggesting many more may be dead. The United Nations reports that between 150 to 200 people are missing, and around 50,000 homes have been affected by the flooding. The disaster has devastated a region already reeling from months of civil war, with Sudan's infrastructure in disrepair due to neglect and conflict. So how might we think about this story from the standpoint of cultural apologetics? The devastating flood surge in Sudan that burst through the Arbat Dam, destroying villages and killing dozens of people, is a stark reminder of the fragility of human existence and the impermanence of our creations. As C.S. Lewis once noted in his book, Mere Christianity, human beings are not naturally inclined to be selfless. This inherent selfishness often leads us to prioritize our own interests over the well-being of others, resulting in a neglect of critical infrastructure and a lack of preparedness for natural disasters. The story highlights how Sudan's dams, roads, and bridges were already in disrepair before the war between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary rapid support forces began. This state of disrepair is a direct consequence of the country's priorities being skewed towards conflict rather than development. Lewis, in his book The Screwtape Letters, aptly describes this phenomenon as a war of rival interests, where individuals and nations prioritize their own self-interest over the greater good. Furthermore, the fact that some people had fled their flooded homes and headed to the mountains where they were now stranded underscores the lack of adequate emergency planning and preparedness. This is a clear example of what Lewis calls the inner ring in his book, The Inner Ring, where individuals prioritize their own immediate needs over the well-being of others. The inner ring refers to the insular world that we often create for ourselves, ignoring the greater good and the plight of those around us. Moreover, the UN reports that at least 118,000 people have been displaced by the rains this year, a staggering number that highlights the far-reaching consequences of neglecting critical infrastructure. This displacement is not just physical, but also emotional and psychological, leaving deep scars on individuals and communities. Lewis, in his book, A Grief Observed, notes that grief is a wound that will not heal, and that it requires intentional effort to process and overcome. The story also raises important questions about the role of government and leadership in times of crisis. The fact that Sudan's rainy season task force only reported 132 people killed in floods across the country, up from 68 2 weeks ago, suggests a lack of transparency and accountability. Lewis, in his book God in the Dock, notes that the Christian view is that human beings are created to be stewards of God's creation, and that leaders have a moral obligation to prioritize the well-being of their citizens. Finally, the story serves as a poignant reminder of our shared humanity and the need for compassion and empathy. As Lewis so eloquently puts it in his book, The Problem of Pain, the human spirit is capable of great beauty and great ugliness, and that we have a choice to make every day to prioritize love, kindness, and generosity over selfishness and neglect. In conclusion, the story of the flood surge in Sudan serves as a stark reminder of our collective responsibility towards each other and towards creation. As Lewis so aptly puts it in his book, The Abolition of Man, we have a choice to make between two rival views of human nature, one that prioritizes self-interest and another that prioritizes love, kindness, and generosity. The consequences of our choices are far-reaching, and it is only by choosing the latter that we can create a world where such tragedies are less likely to occur. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Cultural Apologists React. Be sure to come back tomorrow for a new take on the day's news from the standpoint of Christian cultural apologetics.